currently MIA, which is funny because I'm actually here in Miami, Florida right now. Although this vlog is not going to be about Miami, Florida. This vlog is more going to be about a session that I played back in Austin, Texas on the Lodge live stream. Craziness as always. Crazy as always, because it just always is craziness. Absolute madness from the Lodge, multiple all-ins, the works. So enjoy this vlog from the Lodge, and then I'll be right back afterwards to tell you about what's going on in Miami and elsewhere. Enjoy. Guess what, people? It is poker time, coming at you guys from the Lodge live stream in lovely Round Rock, Texas. We've got chips, we've got cards, we've got money, we've got betting, we've got raising, we've got 5, 5, 10, 25, sometimes 50, sometimes 100, and we've got ourselves a 3-bet pot right off the bat. Mark coming in, $75 from the hijack. We got ourselves King 10 suited. Suited Broadway holdings, they tend to make for pretty good 3-bet candidates. When you do get called, there's still a lot of playability. And sometimes people call with suited connectors that you dominate. I make 3-bet $225. Mark makes the call. We go heads up to a flop. And look at this flop. Queen, Jack 9 with 2 diamonds. We flop the nuts with a flush redraw, with a straight flush redraw. It's the absolute world. Mark thinks for a little bit and checks. We feign thoughts for a little bit because we're obviously betting 100% of the time here. I go for some chips and I wager $200. The cool thing about this flop is that it's going to connect with so many different hands in a 3-bet pot, and this happens to be one of those instances. As we can see, Mark has a hand that he wants to continue with, but not just with a call. Mark is actually going to continue with a check raise. He counts out some chips here. We are loving that sight sitting right next to him, and he tosses in $625. I'm trying to not laugh out loud in the moment. I am briefly thinking, but I know I'm going to call. I know I'm just going to flat call here. No need to raise. We're not super deep, and we're sitting in position, which means we can ensure that a bet gets in on every street. So I go ahead, toss in the call. We're off to a turn card, which upgrades us to a flush. We no longer have the nuts, but that's fine because we have the second nuts. And if my opponent happens to have an ace-high flush, then God bless him. Mark eyes my stack. Then he shoves all in, and we snap call. We show him the bad news, and he is drawing dead. So, pretty good start here to this little live stream session. This is hand number 2 off of the deck, and we've already doubled up. This is a $2,000 match the stack. We can buy in for $2,000 originally, but then once someone is ahead in the game, all the other players can match that person's stack. They can now top up to $4,000 if they so choose. Some players do, and we get ourselves a little bit deeper of a poker game right off the bat with us up 2K.
Generally, the dealer will wait like 3 or 4 seconds.
You think he'll throw the queen card protector up against the backdrop if he gets stacked again?
The queen goes airmail.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
B-Dog, 697.
All right, in this next hand, we're now on hand 13. That's 10 hands. That's 11 hands later from the previous one. There's a raise from the dealer button to $75. There's a 3-bet from Mark to $235. We're in the $25 straddle looking down at ace queen offsuit. Interesting spot here. We could fold, we could maybe flat, or we could 4-bet. I kind of like a 4-bet. We have pretty good properties here. We're blocking some strong hands like pocket aces, ace king, pocket queens, queen deuce. So I'm going to go ahead and put in this 4-bet. I make it $600 to go. We are rooting for a fold here. We fold out the best hand. We get through the pocket 3s, but Mark's got himself a pretty looking hand, king queen suited. He's not exactly in a folding mood after getting stacked just 11 hands ago. Nobody likes folding 40% of a royal flush. So Mark's going to make the call here, tosses in the $600 total, and we're off to a flop.
If I did,
10-7-6 rainbow. I don't think that this board should necessarily favor either of us. Because remember, Mark originally 3-bet in this pot. So would he have done that with pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 10s, or 8-9 suited? Maybe some percentage of the time, maybe with pocket 10s, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily help him. It definitely doesn't benefit my 4-bet range all that much either. When he checks it over to me, I just decide to check it back. I think he's going to continue with all of his pairs anyway. Let's see a turn card. That's an ace. That gives us top pair. Mark is going to represent it. He is going to go ahead and put out a wager, $475. After I check back on the flop, it sort of caps my range a little bit. It's pretty unlikely that I'm going to have too many sets here. I think I would bet with all of them because the board is connected. Pretty unlikely for me to have a straight. With my range being a little bit capped, Mark takes advantage of that fact, puts out a bet. I know you guys can think I'm pretty foolish sometimes, but hopefully you don't think I'm so foolish I'm going to fold on this turn card. I call. River's an offsuit 10, that pairs the 10, and now Mark goes ahead and wagers 4 figures this time, $1,100. That yellow chip, that's worth $1,000. Just that one chip, $1,000. Don't love it, but I'm trying to find a way that I can possibly fold here. Second heart hits the board on the turn. We don't block any hearts. It seems unlikely that he would bet with a 10 on the turn after that ace hits. That ace should be fantastic for my range as played. So he's going to have to show me a really good hand here. He's going to have to show me pocket 7s, pocket 6s, or maybe ace 10. Full house. Those are super hard to make. I call.
That's not really what I wanted to hear. Good call there, Mr. Neeme.
So what was working yesterday for Mark and Chips isn't necessarily working today.
In this hand, the action folds all the way over to Be Done on the dealer button, who comes in for the raise of $75. Small blind folds. I'm in the big blind with king, queen offsuit. Again, we block a lot of good hands. Pocket kings, pocket queens, ace king, ace queen, queen 6. So I'm going to come in for the 3-bet. Out of position, it's best if we can just win it pre-flop rather than try and play from out of position for the rest of the hand. I 3-bet it to 4 times the initial raise, $300. As we can see, that's not going to work. Be Done has aces. Be Done is from West Texas. I didn't think that people in West Texas ever got aces. In fact, I think in West Texas, they just take the aces out of the deck. So I don't even know if B-Dun knows what aces are. But he's got the aces here. He puts in the 4-bet. We are out of there.
Every other year.
I've done it
I like
twice.
it.
I thought the quality was good, the rooms were good, the food was good, the service was
Never jamming there with the nut flush. Always drawing there. Yes, indeed, RL. Wow. For real, my
2 1/4 from
chest hurts.
Neeme.
In this hand, we got another raise from B-Dun. This time in the hijack. Makes it $75 to go. I am on the dealer button with ace 10 offsuit. Could do a couple different things here. Maybe even 3. We're in position. Flat call seems fine. Playing in position for the entire hand. Fold seems fine. It's just ace 10 offsuit. Raise seems fine too. Once again, removal to some strong hands, such as 10-4. If we happen to get 4-bet, it's not that big of a deal. We just toss away the ace 10. And if we do get called, we're in position for the entire hand. I go for the 3-bet. And B-Dun makes the call. Heads up to a flop of Queen Jack 8, which is kind of good news, bad news. It's going to connect with a decent portion of my opponent's range. But we flop ourselves pretty good equity here with a double gutter. In our 10 blocks, the strongest hands, which are straights. So I'm going to continue with a C-bet this time. B-Dun thinks for a little while, and then he makes the call. Turns the 6 of clubs, which adds a second flush draw on board. But aside from that, doesn't change too much. Checks it over to me, and pretty interesting because we have the ace of clubs and the 10 of diamonds. So we can continue repping the strongest hands here. We're the ones that are going to have pocket queens, pocket jacks usually. Expect to see a 4-bet pre-flop at least sometimes. We don't face a check raise, so I don't think he's going to have the strongest hands too often. I'm going to barrel again here and look to continue aggression over multiple streets. This time I bet $580. B-Dun thinks for a while, and as we can see with this exact holding, he's probably not going anywhere. Top pair with the gut shot, he makes the call. 7 of diamonds rolls in on the river, which doesn't improve us. We're left with ace high here, which is almost certainly no good. Again, we do have the 10 of diamonds in our hand, so we've got some removal to the strongest hand still. We still block straights, and now we've got a diamond blocker, which removes some flushes. I think we're going to have to wager again here if we're going to try and win this thing. We've told a reasonable story so far. 3-bet pre-flop. Bet flop, bet turn, betting river here. I would do all the above with pocket queens, pocket jacks. I'm going to have some suited connectors in my 3-bet range pre-flop as well, such as 9-10 suited. We need to do that for board coverage. Then, of course, aces and kings. I'm going to fire here. I'm going to fire the final bullet. I bet $1,050. That's one of those yellow chips. That's a $1,000 chip and $50 on top. Looking back, I kind of feel like I wish I would have bet a little bit bigger here. I think if we really put the hammer down, it's going to put our opponent in a very tough spot. but it is still a 4-figure amount. We got B done in the tank.
Does have the 10 of diamonds, so blocking some combinations of flushes for B done. Can B done pick it off with the pair of queens?
You got it.
And his decision is to call and put us in our place, and we dust off some of our winnings so far in this live stream game. We tried our best, bet all 3 streets, reasonable removal to the strongest hands, but it's not enough. Take it down, be done.
So if you love us now, you're going to love us even more come the new year.
Way to go, Sean, fixing that setting on his phone. Now
This is a hand in which there is no right way to play it, but in this instance, I make it $35 to go from the hijack. Big blind calls, third blind calls, 3 participants heading to a flop. That comes down pretty favorable. It comes down Jack 5 deuce rainbow. We flop the nuts. Action checks over to me. If this was heads up, I would check it back for sure. We are blocking so much of the continuing range here. It's a pretty dry board, but 3 ways. This is Texas. Someone's going to find something to call with, so I wager 1/3 of the pot. First player folds. Second player, Kyle, he makes the call. Turn feels like a pretty good one to me. It's the ace of spades, second spade. Action checks over to me, hoping that my opponent picked up top pair. Of course, I'm firing again now that there's a flush draw on the board, and we block less of the calling range. I wager again, but as we can see, my opponent was calling with backdoor stuff. Those dreams are dead. We're just going to have to win it right here.
Man, I love this thing. Coke Zero, the formula is fucking amazing.
Rick likes Coke Zero.
Coke Zero, good product.
But I would think Astros would be the favorite. I don't know.
Friendly.
In this hand, the $25 straddle is on, and there's 2 open limps before it gets to me on the dealer button, and look what we have here. The Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to my friend, James. He has coined the term the Johnson for the Jack Deuce. You guys get it, I'm sure. I'm going to play the Johnson, heart variety. We've got ourselves a family limped pot here at the lodge. Friendly poker. Everybody at the table heading to a flop of Queen, Queen, 9, Rainbow. Nobody wants to come out firing on this flop, and action checks all the way over to me on the button. When you get the Johnson, you respect the Johnson. I'm going to fire. I'm going to bet $75. Looking to take this one home, looking to muscle it through. Folds, lots of folds. Folding is happening. Folding back around, folds over to Mark, who's thinking about it. He's got himself a little something.
On the line.
$75 for Neeme. Gets 2 9s to fold, and now he gets 3 9s to fold.
But it's a massively multi-way pot. He decides to let it go.
Neeme's going to show the table. Just Jack Deuce, Choctaw Nuts, as they call it in Oklahoma.
I've never been to Oklahoma. It's the Johnson where I'm from.
So it's really right there. Yeah.
Andrew Neeme races on up to 105 with Queen Jack offsuit.
Yes, indeed, he does. 105 to go out of the cutoff with the Queen Jack offsuit over a limp from B Dunn. The $25 straddle was on, and B Dunn limped in right behind. We're looking to ISO that limp with our Broadway holding, and B Dunn makes the call. So heads up to a flop that comes down Ace King 9, which gives us a massive range advantage here. The Ace King high boards. Fantastic for the pre-flop raiser, not so much for a limp caller. So when he checks it over to me, of course I'm firing, and I don't have to down bet. When we're so dominant in range versus range, we don't have to go small. I see bet, B Dunn does have a piece, he comes along. I'm not too worried yet though. A, we have a little bit of equity, and B, I can keep my foot on the gas on this kind of a board. Turn doesn't change anything, B Dunn checks it over to me. Let's do it. Second barrel, incoming, I'm firing.
Another bet here, wants to win 3 pots in a row, and he does it.
Nice.
Another pot goes to Andrew Neeme.
Heating up.
One of the originals. One of the original vloggers out there.
The Godfather.
Yeah.
So we fast forward a bunch here, and you'll notice I'm standing up, and that is because we are playing the famed stand-up game. And it is down to the two final participants, myself and Wynn on the other side of the table. This is not a great spot to be in. Whoever wins the next hand is going to avoid having to pay $100 to every player as a bounty. That's going to be a $700 penalty to whoever loses the next hand. That means we have to play this 5-4 suited. We are here in the big blind. I'm going to raise it up. The two players in between myself and Wynn get out of the way. Wynn feels forced to call with any two holdings, essentially. At least for him, he's in position. So we're going heads up to a flop here, and it comes down ace, ace, jack with two diamonds. I'm expecting to make this a multi-street bluffing situation. I would expect him to really put on the pressure pre-flop. If you happen to have an ace here, this should be a better board for me than it is for him, considering I raised pre-flop, and he's very incentivized to just stick a bunch of money in there pre-flop to put the pressure on and to try and win a hand, try and win this hand in particular. So when it comes down to ace, ace, jack, I'm firing. I go small here to start, planning to fire bigger on later streets, and Wynn makes the call. Turn is essentially a brick, and it's time to fire that second barrel. This time I fire out for $500, planning on firing again if need be. And this is not a great situation to be in. The good news is A, we don't block diamonds, and B, we still have the initiative, having raised pre-flop and bet on flop and turn. This is a very gross situation, though, because it feels like Wynn has something that he's not going to want to fold. He also knows that I am very incentivized to bluff with any two cards as well. We can't just check and give up, because if we do that, we automatically not only lose this hand with 5 high, but we lose an additional $700 for the stand-up game. So we have to wager again, and I choose a sizing of $1,100. And once again, it's one of those kind of spots where I wish I would have fired a little bit bigger.
He's not folding, Rick.
Me and my wife, youngest, when we had previous, now we have a blended, but we have one 7-year-old girl.
Diamonds miss.
She runs
Unlikely that he has an ace. He could have a jack with a superior kicker, but Wynn's going to pay it to see it. He's not folding, Rick.
It's like, I know, I mean,
Makes the call, puts his head down.
Jack.
You got it.
And Andrew Neeme is the last one standing. Valiant effort by Andrew,
think so.
but the cards just weren't there for him,
My savings
and he's going to pay everybody the tax.
After Wynn gives it some thought, he does make the call, which is terrible news for us, because now we not only have to pay that $700 penalty, but we torch off $1,100 there on the river. I wonder what would have happened if we had gone bigger, and I kind of get the feeling that he might have called anyway, and that was kind of my feeling in the moment. I felt like I needed to bet something because I lose to all hands with 5 high. Felt like I needed to make a wager to try and give myself a shot to win this thing, but also felt like he was going to be super incentivized to call with whatever he happened to have, which was probably going to be a jack and maybe even an ace. All right, back to it. Back to normal poker, not stand-up game poker. I've got king, queen offsuit. I'm raising. Screw these guys. I make it $75 to go. We find not one, but 2 callers, which means 3 ways to the flop. That's top pair. Feels good. Feels much better than 5 high. So when action checks over to me, I'm going to wager. I choose a sizing of 1 black chip. That equals $100. We get 1 call and 1 fold. Heads up to a turn card, which is a great one for us. We upgrade from top pair to trips. Feels like we always have the best hand here. Unlikely for us to be outkicked by ace queen since we did not face a 3-bet pre-flop. Wagering for value, I bet $250. My opponent thinks for a little bit and makes the call. Off to a river card, which is an ace. King 10 gets there, but I'm not sure if my opponent would just peel that again out of position after the board has already paired. So I feel like I still have the best hand here almost always. Definitely going to bet for value. I decide on a sizing, a very precise sizing, a very scientific sizing of $675. And right away, we know we're not getting check raised based on my opponent's body language. We're open for a call here. We've got the nut trips.
That's 777 thinking about calling here. I like the size here from Neeme. Curiosity killed the bucket hat. And now he's leaning more towards fold as he puts the chips down and sends the cards into a muck. But nice bet from Neeme. Almost got paid.
No more river value for us, but feels good to drag it in anyway.
446 likes. We're only 54 away from.
Yeah, the biggest club in London is.
I'm not saying it's good, but you're gonna laugh your ass off. I'm not saying it's good.
You're saying it's good. That's exactly
I'm
what
saying
you're saying.
it's funny.
While these two dummies in the booth are talking about Halloween costumes, and I say dummies with nothing but love, Wynn raises it up to $350 on the dealer button. And the reason for that sizing is because the $50 straddle is on by yours truly, and the $100 straddle is on by TM. Lots of action at the lodge, as always. Folds over to me, sitting in the $50 straddle, as mentioned, looking down ace-4 suited. You know what? I'm not having it. 3-bet. Suited wheel ace, 3-bet time, $900 I make it. If you do happen to get called, the small wheel aces have some playability to them. They can make a flush. They can make a wheel. Once again, removal of strong hands. Ace-king, aces, ace-queen, 7-4. Folds back over to Wynn. He doesn't have it. He lets it go. We take it down.
Of clubs to $900, and he's going to take it down. Pretty nice aggression from him. Chad Shaman says a hot dog. Fred Flintstone, I like it. Elvis, David Hoff says. 20 years ago, Rick. What were you doing 20 years ago?
20 years ago. Living here in Austin.
I was not.
In this hand, playing 5-5, 10, 25. Cutoff raises it up to $75. Kyle on the dealer button makes the call, and Mark comes in for the 3-bet squeeze up to $355. And it's over to me in the big blind, the pocket eights. I like Mark's style. I know he's mixing it up a lot over the past couple of days, past couple of live stream sessions. Even though I'm sitting in position versus Mark, this should probably just be a fold. Coming in for the cold call with the initial raiser still to act behind me, facing that 3-bet. Kind of sucks to just torch the $355 when we face that 4-bet. There could also be a lot of tricky flops when we don't flop a set, but folding is easily the most boring of the options. And we got position on the 3-better. I'm going to take a little gamble here. I'm going to go ahead and put in the cold call with the snowman.
777s with the crabs. He's getting a price to go set money, but he's not interested in making that call.
The initial raiser folds, but Kyle on the dealer button makes the call. So 3 ways heading to a flop, which gives us the overpair on the 7-high flop. Mark slows down with a check. This board, not great for his range, so it makes sense. Our hand could definitely benefit from some protection, so I think a bet from us makes a lot of sense. Don't need to go too big. I bet a little more than 1/3 the pot. Kyle seems to have something he wants to continue with. He makes the flat call, and Mark is pretty done with it here. He's going to get out of the way and let us battle. Turn is the ace of hearts, second heart. I don't mind that card too much. I don't think there's going to be too many aces in Kyle's range. I think he could have maybe ace-4 suited through ace-7 suited. I don't think he's really going to have other ace-high hands in range because on the flop, he still had Mark to act behind him, and he has to assume that a lot of the times Mark's going to have a better ace. So flat calling with ace-high seems a little risky. Not too many combos of ace-x hands remaining. I am going to check, though. I think we're somewhere in the middle of our range with these pocket eights. Kyle has other feelings. He's wagering, and it's not a small wager. $1,250. Pretty tricky spot here. Certainly there's some value hands available. We can assign him sets. He would have had to flat call the flop, but that's certainly possible. I wouldn't expect him to have flopped a better overpair because he shouldn't really be betting those too frequently. Not for this sizing, I wouldn't think. Say a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 10s. I don't think those hands are necessarily going to fear the ace, but I don't think they're going to love it either, and I don't think they would wager for this sizing. Seems like a bunch of other hands that are available that could be turned into bluffs. 7-6, 6-5, 4-6, pocket 6s. We also have 2 blockers to a straight. So I'm going to need to see one more card and see what develops on the river. The river is a completely inconsequential offsuit jack. That shouldn't change anything whatsoever. I check it once more, and my opponent shoves all in, which is effectively my entire stack, $2,785. Now what? Honestly, I'm not exactly sure, but since that jack didn't change anything, I am thinking in my mind that since I called this turn card when there was all these draws available, and we get a very clean river, I'm feeling like I'm going to have to put the rest of this money in with my pair of eights. In the moment, I'm thinking about all those potential bluffs that my opponent could have, as mentioned, those pair plus straight draws that probably don't have much showdown value. But the thing is, does the average poker player turn those pair plus straight draws into bluffs over multiple streets, and then for the maximum on the river? In Texas, anything and everything does happen. That's going through my mind. In the moment, I say I can't beat ace-7, I can't beat pocket 7s, stuff like that. But once we get this river card and after we call the turn, I feel like my fate is a little bit sealed. I'm not getting any read whatsoever. My opponent is not talking to me. He's not giving me any help, any assistance. Can't blame him for that. So I'm going to make a play here that is super high variance, both financially and in the way it makes me look. If I'm wrong, I look stupid. If I'm right, I look like a genius. And in this case, I am wrong. I look stupid. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. Looking back, I think theoretically the call down is fine. I think exploitatively, as mentioned, most players aren't turning straight draws that had pairs as well into multi-street bluffs. They're usually just going to take them to showdown and hope they have showdown value. So maybe versus population, maybe it's a fold. Either way, I look like a dummy here. I lose all my money. Poker's tough sometimes. I'm okay with it. Life goes on.
Kyle's going to get all the money back he lost to Kevin. All right, those are our picks. Who are your picks? Who do you think will be the last one standing? Tax paid, $100 per player.
The show goes on. I'm not completely broke just yet. Looking to get less broke, though, and what better way to do it than by playing a stand-up game? We're back into it. Last man standing owes everyone $100 in this hand. Mark comes in for the raise to $250 out of the cutoff. Right next to him, we got ourselves ace-queen suited. We are not folding. We are not flat calling. We are re-raising with this beauty. I make it $675 to go. Not exactly a huge 3-bet, but we're in position, so it's okay. Don't mind if he calls. Of course, happy if he folds. I get to sit down. But directly on my left is a man looking down at 2 jacks, and he goes deep into the tank. So deep. So deep.
So deep, so deep.
We're going to be thinking here for a little while. Get comfortable. If you're watching this vlog with another person, this is what I want you to do. I want you to hold hands. I want you to say a little prayer for me and my ace-queen suited. I want you to think bad thoughts for these pocket jacks and good thoughts. Diamond thoughts. You guys did it! He folded the pocket jacks. He laid down the pocket jacks. That is a massive win for us. And nobody else has anything good. Jack 4 is a pretty good hand, as we know, but Jack 4 is out of there. King, Queen, we dominate that hand. We don't mind if that hand... No, that hand's not coming in. That's a fold. The other players get out of the way. It's back over to Mark and Chips. He's from England. He is going to also get out of the way. So we're going to be the first ones to sit down this round of stand-up game. We find a little win here, put some money in our pockets. We're still in Stuckville, though, but feels good. First one sitting in the stand-up game always feels good.
Thank you. What do you have?
Punished. Falling for the princess of VPIP, saying Poobah has kidnapped her. I wonder where that princess of VPIP is currently. Probably working.
All right, let's see if we can keep the good vibes rolling here. Once again, there is a raise from Mr. Mark and Chips out of the cutoff. He makes it $70 to go. We are on his direct left on the dealer button looking down at pocket queens. That's 3-bettable. I'm going to go my standard 3x versus the initial raise. I make it $210 to go. Folds back over to Mark. He, of course, is not folding. Jack 10 suited. Can't blame him. And we are going to go heads up to a flop.
Set for Neeme.
And there she is.
All clubs, though, on the flop.
Top set, usually great. Mark checks it. I'm wagering. I like to bet small on the flops that are monotone. In this case, I bet $150, which is about 1/3 the size of the pot. Mark wastes no time. He makes the call. Turns a lovely looking 5 of diamonds. Doesn't change anything. Feeling really good about my top set here. After Mark checks it, I'm going to bet again. This time I bet $400. Mark doesn't think for too long. The man acts pretty quick. Love to see it. He makes the call. Looking for another low red card ideally. And the dealer delivers. 3 diamonds is perfect for us. Once again, shouldn't change anything. Not afraid of a straight. Not really afraid of a flush since he never put in any raises prior to this. When he checks over to me, I'm going to bet, and I'm going to bet much bigger this time. I size all the way up to $1,200. We get a yellow chip in there, and Mark snap calls. He puts in the immediate call. We roll it over. We got the winner here, and this is about a $2,000 victory, which is great as it cuts into our losses. Mark managed to spill some water on his neighbor, which is pretty funny, but I'm trying not to laugh because I just won $2,000. So that is some good news. Bad news is that the stream suffered a little bit of technical difficulties here. The internet did. So the stream ends here, but we continued to play off stream after the fact. And here is an interesting hand that happened after the fact off stream. Playing 5, 5, 10, 25 in this hand, and I don't have the exact positions, but Wynn, I believe, is in late position, and he comes in for a raise to $100. Folds around to me, I believe, in the $25 straddle, looking down at pocket jacks. We are 3-betting this one. We're out of position. 4x it is. I make it 400 United States dollars to go. Back over to Wynn, who decides that's still not enough money. The 4-bet up to $1,100. I didn't come all the way from off stream to fold pocket jacks to 4-bets, so I'm going to go ahead and make this call, and we're going to see what kind of flop we get going heads up versus Wynn. And the flop comes down not favorable, but somewhat interesting, you might say. We flop a royal flush draw with our jack of diamonds. We're facing the 2 overcards, though, with the ace of diamonds and the king of diamonds on board. I check it over to Wynn, who thinks for a little bit before putting out a large wager to the tune of $1,500. Pretty interesting, but pretty tough spot because we don't really know what we're rooting for. I mean, aside from the queen of diamonds specifically, of course. But this flop smashes his 4-bet range. We're dust versus pocket aces, pocket kings, ace king, pocket queens, ace queen. Almost all of the hands that I think Wynn would find a 4-bet with here. And we don't really know if we're drawing live here. What if Wynn found a 4-bet with ace queen with the queen of diamonds? We're just smoked. It might look a little crazy, and maybe it is, but I just decided to fold the royal flush draw to the single continuation bet. I let it go, but I do ask if we can see a run out. The dealer obliges, and we see a brick on the turn and a brick on the river, and so we do not approve of the pocket jacks, and Wynn shows us the ace king offsuit that he 4-bet with and connected very well with on this flop. We actually avoid a little bit of extra disaster there by not 5-bet jamming pre-flop. As you can see, we always got felted on this run out. That's hindsight, of course, but happy that we got to see the cards. We get to sleep well at night knowing we do not make the royal flush, but we lose the hand and we cannot find enough run good to make up for our losses in this session. So we are not able to get it done on this episode of the Lodge live stream Insanity. We book a loss in this one. We lose $4,260, but you can bet I will be back looking for revenge on the Lodge live stream. Don't have the dates just yet because in the meantime, I am here in Miami, Florida, and tomorrow I'm getting on a boat. I'm getting on a cruise ship. My first ever cruise ship. I've never taken a cruise before. Tomorrow that changes because I'm hopping on the WPT cruise. It leaves here out of Miami, goes to the Caribbean from the 11th to the 16th. We'll be sailing the high seas, playing poker, playing tournaments, cash games. There'll be tons to come. You'll see. I'm going to make tons of content from it. It'll be awesome. After that, we come back. There'll be a meetup game at the Seminole Hard Rock on the 17th of November. If you can come join, it'll be great. We'll be playing 2-5. We'll be playing bomb pots. We'll be straddling. One more thing I wanted to mention is that I was a guest on a podcast called Gamblers. It's part of the Ringer Network, which perhaps some of you heard of. The host of this podcast is a guy named David Hill. He does awesome work. And when he reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be a feature on one of his episodes, I said I would be honored to because he does such good work. And this episode is easily one of my favorite things that has been produced about this whole vlog story, the poker vlog story, the YouTube channel here. Again, I would love for you guys to check that out. I'll link it in the description box and I'll pin it to the top of the comments. Check it out if you can. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, etc., etc. All right.